What is going on, guys? We have a great guest coming on today. We're going to preview the NFL Combine and do a 16-team rookie draft with a slight twist. Stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 134 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live every Tuesday and Friday night right here on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube. Of course, we are also syndicated on all your major podcast networks and streaming in the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic. It's Combine week, and we've been really busy. We have the Dynasty War Room episodes have been coming out. We recorded 6 last week that should be popping out throughout the week. I dropped a 3-round mock draft today. I will be pushing it hard throughout that. And we have I've been working on the Dynasty Draft Room, rookie guide. Make sure to check it out. It's pinned in my profile on Twitter, and it's awesome. Get the pre-orders in. Everybody's supporting the industry. We put a ton of time and effort. We have almost 100 players profiled in it, so make sure to check that out.
Good stuff. All right. Also joining us tonight from the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast, Mr. Shane Manilla. Shane, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to hear about this great guest you have on, though. So you might as well just announce that, dude.
So tell me, man, tell all my listeners about you. Like, tell me about the HQ podcast and what it is that you do.
Yeah, that's about all I do right now. I'm a contributor for Fantasy Pros, so I'll still write a little bit. But right now, not all I am on. I shouldn't say that. My only baby is the Dynasty Trades HQ with my co-hosts Michael Sipes and Jeremy Browen. And, we started the show and we were just going to talk about trades, but that got boring really quick, like 13 minutes into the first episode. So then we kind of expanded out and just talk about everyththing, really. But, we'll throw in some trades here and there because I like to talk about myself or things that I do.
Right.
So we'll usually discuss 1 or 3 of my trades since I'm in. Well, I cut down. I think I'm in 35, 40 leagues.
Oh my
Something
God.
like that. Dynasty leagues, yeah.
Yeah, no, the few times I listened to your show just recently, you're like doing trades literally on the podcast.
Yeah, that's I don't know if you guys have the same problem, but being on a podcast, you start talking about players and you're like, I really don't have enough of him. Or, you know what, you're right. I should really be selling on David Montgomery. Let me get him off my roster right now.
Right.
And also you're at the disadvantage that hopefully for your download numbers, every one of your league mates listens to you. And the next day they're going to know what you're thinking and hurt your position.
Right. That's true. Good point. All right. Looks like I'm having some issues over here with my backdrop. You get to look at my lovely green backdrop for now until I can figure out how to get my my green screen working again. But let's go ahead and get into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
All right. So we'll kick this off with Ryan. I want to get your thoughts here on the 17-game schedule that's proposed by the NFL and what you think the fantasy impact might have on it.
I personally hate it. One, because it's on an even number of games, and it's going to give one team and one extra home and away game. And I think it's going to be confusing for fantasy because we may see more players rotated in and out. We may see guys getting rested in situations they can't. We don't know if they'll lock up buys earlier, how it's going to work with that. It's a lot of questions. I mean, I love the idea of more football, but I also don't want to see injuries either. And the players don't want it, and anything that keeps them from holding out, I support.
All right. What about you, Shane? What are your thoughts on the 17-game schedule?
Yeah, I'm worried about the injuries. I guess there's really hasn't been any talk yet, but I can kind of see it coming of a second bye. Although I guess I shouldn't worry about that because then that just extends the season longer, except that it would make it even harder dealing with more bye weeks.
Right.
The injuries, I'm worried about players resting games. You know, if we're playing, like I'm on a team. Say, the Patriots are 0-12 next year without Brady, and they're playing the 13-0. What do you call those people? The defending champions, Kansas City. The Chiefs. Kansas City's great state of Missouri. Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs, they pretty much have that bye locked up. Well, it might be a good time to rest someone. You don't see it a lot in the NFL because every game matters, but adding another game could dilute one of the games. But all that said is I'm a football junkie, so yeah, bring them on. If they want to move to a 20-game schedule, I'm here for it.
You're definitely in the minority because the more I hear about it, everyone's kind of against the 17-game schedule. So you're kind of in the minority there. But I'm kind of with you, though. I don't think it affects fantasy too much, which is what I really care about, honestly. And, one more game, is it really that big of a deal? I don't know. I don't play, so maybe it is a big deal, but one more game doesn't seem like it's going to be. They went from, 14 to 16, back in, the early 70s, something like that, and it wasn't as big a deal as it's just going one more game. So, yeah, I think that, it might change the bye weeks. That's the one thing I would be worried about. If you keep your playoffs, starting on week 13, will there be a week 13 bye? So that could affect it a little bit, but I think for the most part, it shouldn't affect fantasy too much. All right, Shane, I'm going to go to you on this next one here. It's A.J. Green. We'll do a kind of a combo here. A.J. Green wants out of Cincy, and then talk about Joe Burrow and these rumors that he doesn't want to play there.
So let's go with the more fun one, Joe Burrow. Tiny Hands Joe. So I think he tried to clarify that a little bit yesterday. I'm not sure when your people are going to be hearing this, but I think yesterday was Monday. But he did try to clarify that a bit, that, he didn't want to make it sound like he doesn't want to be in Cincinnati. I think he was just trying to give a non-answer. And the way he went about it, it kind of sounded like, I don't really want to go to Cincinnati.
Right. But
in fairness to him, have you ever met anyone that's like, oh, yeah, let's go to Cincinnati?
Right.
If AJ Green was there with him, that would be great. As a rookie, it'd be nice to have that veteran presence there. Right. But AJ Green's 33 now. He hasn't played a healthy season in the last 3 years.
3 years. Yep.
AJ, he's clearly a descending player. I don't know where AJ Green's going to end up. I kind of think he ends up back in Cincinnati. It's going to be one of those situations where, you kind of put your name out there across the league, and your agent's going to let you know that, well, guess what? There's really not as much interest as we thought there was.
Yep.
I can't see someone like the Packers. I know some people have talked about him ending up with the Packers. I can't really see them saying, yeah, you know what? Let's tie this 33-year-old, 32-year-old wide receiver to our 38-year-old or 35-year-old quarterback. Maybe. But it's not like he's going to end up in an offense like Philadelphia where they're trying to get younger.
Right. What about the Patriots? They're kind of renowned for getting those veteran receivers in there.
Yeah, if they want to get them, great, because I hate the Patriots, as most sane people do. But if they don't have Tom Brady, what's the selling point?
Right.
Yes, you have Bill Belichick, but you have Jarrett Stidham, who no one knows anything about. I think Tom Brady's the selling point there, because that offense, without Tom Brady, you're looking at an old Julian Edelman, question mark in N'Keal Harry.
Yep.
I guess Mohamed Sanu is still there since they gave up a second for him, but it's not a high-powered offense. And I don't think he's what that offense needs. That's an offense that needs an infusion of youth all over the place.
Right.
Speed.
And Ryan,
speed would be nice.
I want to get your thoughts on your boy. I know Jarvis Landry here going to be sidelined 6 to 8 months. Probably going to miss a lot of the the offseason stuff, and possibly even week 1, week 2. What are your thoughts on this with Jarvis Landry, and how does that hurt his draft stock?
It's not going to be that much. 1 or 2 games missed in the season is not huge, and I feel like he's a veteran, and mostly a technician type player where he's not going to really be hurt by it. It's not like he's a speed receiver or somebody who's winning off all physical trait talent. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a big deal. And I mean, he's a PPR monster, and he's so cheap already. Right now, you're getting him in the 6th round, and he's a top 15, top 16 receiver almost every year just because of volume, and that's only going to depress the value. I think it's a huge buy window for him.
Yeah, I think you get him in the 6th round before this news broke. I think now you could probably get him even cheaper than that. So definitely a good thing there. Yeah. I mean, he was awesome last year. I know you were touting him a lot last year. I wasn't quite as in on him as you were, and I regretted not being.
I love boring PPR guys.
Yeah, he's definitely was great last year. Obviously, he had a better season than even Odell Beckham did last year. So good stuff.
The one thing I wanted to say, circle back to Burrow. The big reason that rumor was started was because Carson Palmer was basically saying that Cincinnati's organization doesn't want to win, and if he was a young quarterback knowing what he knew now, he wouldn't have gone there. And his brother Jordan is helping train Burrow, and that's where all that got started. And that's why people were questioning, is it because of the tie between them? Interesting.
All right, Shane, let's go back over to you real quick, and I want you to talk a little bit about Kareem Hunt. And the last news that I heard on him was that he was planning on staying in Cleveland. What are your thoughts on Kareem Hunt?
I like Hunt. Obviously I want him to go somewhere else where he can get an expanded role, and he doesn't hurt Nick Chubb. And I was just jumping on the data box earlier and looking at Nick Chubb's scoring. So 4 of his worst scoring weeks came in the final 8 games of the year, and that just so happens to be when Kareem Hunt came back from suspension.
Good point.
Now, 2 of those 2, one was week 16, one was week 17. So week 17 shouldn't have hurt anyone because you shouldn't be playing in week 17, but still. I don't think anywhere else wants him after he got pulled over with an open container of vodka and told the cop, on the body cam that he would have failed the drug test. It's, what he did wasn't domestic violence, and what this is doesn't tie into that, but it's just another black mark against him. It's like, look, this guy should be on his best behavior.
Right.
Like, why are you driving around? Like, no one should be driving around with an open container of vodka high anyway. And then to be in that situation where, the only reason you're even in Cleveland, why you didn't win a Super Bowl, and why you're probably not getting signed to a rich contract right now is because you have impulse control issues, clearly.
Yep.
So maybe you should be on your best behavior. So I think he's going to be stuck in Cleveland for another year at least. I mean, he's going to cannibalize some of that work that Nick Chubb could take, and Kareem Hunt it's a shame because he's going to be a flex play.
Yep.
When this is a guy that we've seen has the RB1 potential of the league.
Yep, exactly. Yep, I agree 100%. And I'm actually an owner of Nick Chubb, so I'm a little upset that he's going to stay. I'm kind of hoping that he would go somewhere else. So if he does stay there, it kind of hurts the stock a little bit on him. I was counting on Chubb as being my RB1 for the future, and now I got to possibly think about drafting another rookie running back this year. Ryan, I'm gonna give you this one here with Big Ben. I know you live in Pittsburgh, so you probably get all this news here. Big Ben expected to be 100% in 2 to 3 months, but it kind of hurts his. Does it hurt the stock of Juju? I mean, if you're a Juju owner right now, are you hoping Big Ben comes back and is fully healthy, or are you looking to move Juju now with this news?
I mean, he's throwing Nerf football now, so he's bound to be ready. Realistically, Pittsburgh right now believes, from what I've heard from the media and them talking about it, they believe he's gonna be ready and that he's gonna be better than the year before because he's actually healthy. I don't know how much stock I actually put in that because our media is not really the most reliable of people, but him healthy is a boost to Juju regardless. Mason Rudolph couldn't get the ball more than 10 yards downfield last year, and Duck Hodges was not any better. He sold a lot of cool T-shirts in Pittsburgh, but as a football player, he wasn't anything special. So it's only an upgrade for Juju. There's no way I could sell him now because his value is at an all-time low. I tried to put some offers in for him, but No, I think Big Ben being back for him is huge. And them drafting a quarterback, I mean, they don't pick till the 60th pick in the draft. They don't have a first-round pick. So what are they going to get? Maybe, if they're lucky, a Jake Fromm, which isn't, what his face just said. Yeah, it's not great. It's more of that dink and dunk thing. And that's not what Pittsburgh's used to doing. So I think quarterback, it's Big Ben's job until otherwise proven.
All right. Staying with the quarterback theme, let's go talk about Cam Newton a little bit, Shane. So the news came out that Cam Newton will be 100% in 2 to 3 months, which kind of complicates any trades that they might be able to do for Cam Newton. What do you think of this going forward? If you're a Cam Newton owner, like, are you just plug him back into your lineup and go with it?
I mean, if I'm a Cam Newton owner, I want him in Carolina with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Ian Thomas and Matt Rule running the team, and Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. Because Matt Rule is a head coach that he's just going to scheme, and his team, he's not going to force his players into his scheme. He's going to see, all right, well, this is what our players are good at, and obviously it looks like Joe Brady's that type of coach as well, based on his history last year in LSU as the passing game coordinator or whatever that title was. Of all the places he could land, I want him to stay there. Like, there's nowhere else I want him to go unless for some reason Patrick Mahomes decides he's going to hang it up, and, and Cam's going to take over for him in Kansas City. But that's just pop a decent quarterback in there, and that quarterback's going to put up top 12 numbers.
Yeah,
and Matt Rule was talking today how much he really liked Cam Newton and was excited to coach him, which is always a good thing to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the situation is the best for him for fantasy purposes, right there in Carolina. We've seen it before where veteran quarterbacks get traded somewhere else or go somewhere else as a free agent, and they're never quite the same as they were when they left. And if they had just stayed, where they were, they would have been much better off. And I think you're right. I think Cam Newton stays there. He's comfortable there. He's got a good talent around him. Obviously, he's got Christian McCaffrey there, like you mentioned, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. They got some good pieces there. Ian Thomas at tight end's pretty good looking. So yeah, I think that's definitely where you want to keep Cam Newton for sure. Ryan, I'm gonna go to you on this next one because you brought this one to my attention that I kind of skipped over it when I was setting up the show sheet for tonight. Kind of twofold here with the Vikings. You got Stephon Diggs trying to force a trade and the possibility that Dalvin Cook may hold out. What are your thoughts on these two items?
I mean, they're pushing him pretty hard. I know, as usual, the people overreacted to the Instagram thing with Diggs removing all Vikings things, but he showed frustration all through the season. He's made comments like the backhanded comments that we've seen certain players make before on the way out, and there's been chatter that he is somebody that can do, and they're kind of in cap hell right now. So the fact of him possibly winning more money, or them just trying to free up so they can build that roster, possibly get to the next level, is definitely a possibility. I don't know, trade value. I've heard a second, which I don't know if even sounds right for him because he's a talented young receiver, although he's been injured. And then Dalvin's a lot of the same thing. He's just – these running backs are trying to get paid now before their fifth-year option because you're spent at the running back position, especially a guy who is beat up and – everyone thinks they can do what Lev Bell did and get away with it, but I don't know if he can or not because of the injury history. I love Dalvin Cook. I mean, had the jersey over on the wall right there, but it's still a lot, man. Something's going on with that team because seems like there's a lot of disgruntled players.
And they're so far over the cap too. I think they're estimated $12 million over the cap this year.
Yeah, and they've already cut a bunch of guys on defense. Xavier Rhodes could be cut. It's just that team's in bad shape right now, body-wise. I mean, mainly because Kirk Cousins, but
yeah. And I think he's on his last year, right? There wasn't a 3-year deal that he had, so this would be his last year going into that.
Yeah, all guaranteed though, I think.
Yeah, it's 100% guaranteed. Yeah, they're not going to cut him or anything, but it's just one of those things that if they can just kind of survive one more year, maybe they can get out from underneath that contract because I don't think they've. He's not what they expected him to be. He kind of just took that team over, and they're good, but they're not. I don't think they're contenders really, in my book at least.
No, and they have electric playmakers on offense. They should be.
Yep, agreed 100%. And I see Samuel Wallace. I see you there on Periscope. Unfortunately, my interface won't allow me to respond back to you. So glad you can catch the show, man. Appreciate you checking us out. All right, let's go ahead and get into a combine review here. Of course, our combine preview. Of course, starting today really, but tomorrow's the big one when we got all the skill players pretty much going into the combine. I want to talk to you, Shane, a little bit about how much does the combine results affect your rankings after the fact? Like, if you saw a guy that maybe he wasn't quite as fast as you thought he was, or he wasn't quite as agile. How much do you adjust your rankings based on that stuff?
I have to be honest with you. I've learned to just write my rankings in sand, because after a while playing fantasy football, you realize what you think doesn't matter when it comes to draft capital.
Good point.
So, you don't want to see any of your guys you like. Say, I'm big on T. Higgins. That's a guy I really want in Philadelphia. So I don't want to see him go out there and run like a 4.65, because that's obviously going to hurt his draft stock, and then he'll drop.
Right.
So I'd say that's more where it affects my rankings, is what comes out of it. What's the movement? If people start talking about, well, T. Higgins ran a 4.3 for some reason, which it's not going to happen. He's just my example. And all of a sudden he looks like, a top 15 pick as opposed to a top 30 pick. Well,
right.
Then I'll move him up a little bit. Or if a guy that, a lot of his game's predicated on speed, like Henry Ruggs or Jalen Reagor, go out there and, they're expected to challenge the combine record. But if
right.
they go out there and their 40's just average, well, they're definitely going to drop on my board. But more importantly, it's how does it affect their NFL stocks, since that's the biggest indicator of fantasy success. Independent variable is draft capital. So if this guy ends up, moving from a day 1 wide receiver to a day 2 wide receiver, well, then I'm going to move him down my board accordingly.
Yep. Good point.
I think we've all made the mistake where we fall in love with a player before the combine, before the draft, and then for whatever reason they drop in the draft, and we decide, nope, everyone else is wrong.
Include all the coaches.
I'm going to still draft this guy in the high first round, and then he busts.
Yep.
Because you obviously less draft capital invested in you, the team's going to give you less opportunities to actually succeed.
Yep.
So, I have a pliable, like movable ranking in my head where, like, DeAndre, we were talking about running backs a little earlier, like DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and Jonathan Taylor are kind of all floating in around this 101 range.
Right.
But it's really going to depend on draft capital and the landing spot, as a secondary breaking of a tie, because you don't want someone ending up in Dallas, even if it was a second-round pick. I'd rather have the guy that ends up in Tampa Bay in the third round,
right,
if it's out of those 3 guys.
Yep, 100% agree. And a perfect guy, perfect example is his Hakeem Butler last year. I think the Dynasty world was pretty much all over Hakeem Butler last year, and his draft capital was not good, and people still drafted him thinking he could sort of break through with that offense there, and of course ended up not being very good at all. So that's definitely one that's.
He was hurt though, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Kelvin Harmon broke my heart last year.
Yep, Kelvin Harmon's another one. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, both those guys. I mean, at one point, we're in a league with Scott Barrett, the other Dynasty Trades HQ guys, and we do the rookie draft before the NFL draft. We took Hakeem Butler, I think, like 103 or something.
Wow.
Now, we got lucky and got A.J. Brown later in that draft. And if you would have switched positions, it wouldn't have felt as bad.
Right.
But, yeah, we took Butler early. And then, last year it came out like he was a year older than everyone thought, I think. Or that might have been Harmon. I get them both confused now because they're just kind of back of the roster guys. Yep. But yeah, don't hold on to that. Don't hold on to your preconceived notions before the draft. Look, if someone's getting picked after day 2, they're probably not going to hit. There's outliers always, so no one jump in my DMs and start telling me about Julian Edelman in 2002 or whenever he was drafted. Look, those are outliers. Look at the numbers.
Yep, agreed. What about you, Ryan? How do you look at the combine when doing your rankings?
It's kind of something that's changed a little bit for me. Last year I kind of did it as 5%. I have grading scale by different attributes of a player. Normally it was on a 100-point scale. I did that as a 5% at the end. This year I'm going to kind of use it a little bit different, just as either a tier breaker, or I'm going to use it just for reasons to go back. If I have somebody who I think was fast on tape and they run like shit, I'm going to go back and I'm going to see why. And same goes for the opposite. If I think somebody looked slow on tape and they blaze, that's something to go look at. Same with like the vertical and the 3 counts. I want to go and see what I missed on them and adjust that way more than anything else. But can't make too much of it. You want to see guys who take it seriously, though. A complete blow up, and if you're on outlying things, if you're a receiver and you're running over a 4.6, I'm going to worry.
Yeah, yep.
And stuff like that. I'm more worried about if it's really terrible instead of really good. If Henry Ruggs runs a 4.3, even like a 4.38, he's super fast. He runs a 4.22. He's still extremely fast. I'm not going to adjust it that much because he ran that much faster.
Yeah, agreed 100%. I think also you got to be careful, at least when I do mine, to not punish a guy twice. So if you're ranking a guy based on you thinking him being slow, and then he goes out and he is slow, you were right, you can't really move him down because you kind of expected him to be slow already. So I think you got to kind of be careful with the media. They jump onto that one thing that they want to just point out, like Joe Burrow's small hands or whatever. If we knew going in he had small hands and then lo and behold, he does have small hands, you can't sort of punch him twice for that. So definitely agree with all those points y'all made. So, Ryan, we'll go back
unless, of course...
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't
go
mean
ahead,
to cut
Shane.
in.
No, go ahead.
If you listen to my show, I always do. Unless, of course, his hands shrunk even more. So, you know
True.
what I mean? Like, if it comes out and they remeasure them on Friday and they're like, guys, his hands are only 7 inches now, then I'd be like, all right, drop him down the board. Drop him down the board.
Good point. Ryan, we'll go to you on this next one here. Who are you most excited to see at the Combine?
I'm most excited to see Cam Akers. I've been a fan of him since
I knew you were going to say that.
year. Yeah, I know, obviously, Florida State guy. But he's been kind of just gotten the raw end of the deal the last 2 years of college, being behind the 118th worst offensive line in college football. That's the actual number, not like an exaggeration. But he is a freak. They posted videos of his sophomore year of him squatting 700 pounds. He's a beast. He can fly. I think he's going to be a huge producer at the Combine. I'm really excited to see Jalen Reagor, too, because he came in just jacked today for being that smaller speed guy, and I think he's somebody who's also going to kill it. And then Antonio Gibson, who's a tweener position-wise, but he might be a guy who absolutely kills the Combine at 220 pounds receiver.
Good stuff. And Shane, I got to give you a shout out. I guess someone on Periscope, Samuel Wallace, keeps asking me to give you a shout out on the show. So here's your shout out. Now go ahead and tell me about who you're excited about for this Combine.
I don't think you have to give me a shout out when I'm already on the show. Thanks, Sam. Sam's a great kid, great guy. I didn't mean to call him a kid. I call everybody a kid now because I'm old. Just real quick, if you don't follow Sam, I would follow Sam. He's a great writer. He actually wrote for Dynasty Football Factory for me for a minute, and then RotoViz came in and was like, hey, we're taking this guy, and he was out.
Wow.
Excellent writer. I cheated. I had 2 guys. So one was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, mostly because he came out of nowhere. Like so much so that if you're in Devy leagues, he's going to be available at your 101 in most of those Devy leagues. And I'm in some deep Devy leagues, and this isn't to criticize anyone. It's just there was no reason for him to be on your radar before this last season. And then Eno Benjamin. One of the concerns with him was how small he is. He's 5'8". He was listed at 210 at ASU. But everybody thought that 210 was probably closer to like 195. And he weighed in at 207 pounds today. And, I'm not a size queen or anything, but you want thick running backs.
Yep.
At 5'8", 207, that's a pretty good BMI. I don't know it off the top of my head. So I want to see how that affects his speed, though, because, he's a quick, fast guy. And a lot of the role that a lot of NFL scouts and even fantasy scouts kind of think that his role would have been as a third down back, pass catcher in the NFL. So I want to see if he keeps that speed, and if he does, we might be looking at a guy that could have a larger role than just a pass catching back. He was wildly productive at ASU, and it's not like he's completely under the radar, but being on the West Coast, he definitely isn't on the radar as much as some of the other running backs.
Good point.
Yeah, shout out to Joseph Rossi, who ripped on me for saying Benjamin was over 200 pounds.
I saw that on your Twitter timeline. Yep.
And comfortably, dude. I mean, it wasn't even like, it wasn't like he just scraped by 200.46, like, how they do at the combine.
Right.
Everything's just, it's every last centimeter counts or every last ounce counts. But, dude, he blew by that 200-pound mark, which is impressive at 5'8".
Yeah, hopefully he can run well with it, but he was probably chugging gallons of water. That's fine.
So you know what? And someone brought this up earlier when I said something. I said, all right, well, I hope he runs his 40 well. And someone actually brought up the fact they're like, well, it could be like a boxer's or at MMA when you got to make weight, you'll cut weight. You know what I mean? Right before the weigh-in, and then put the weight back on. I just hope it's not. That's all it was.
Right.
Like it's not just water weight, but
that'd be a whole hell of a lot of water weight for sure.
It is. I mean, we learned this weekend you can be big and still win, so that's all right.
Yep. Yep, good stuff. All right, let's go to the positional groups that you want to see. Ryan, we'll go with you first. What position group are you looking forward to the most?
I have to say it has to be receivers this year just because there's so many talented receivers grouped together. I know, like Daniel Jeremiah said, he has 27 receivers graded in the first 3 rounds, which is impossible. It's not going to happen. But this is going to weed out the imposters in that situation. Guys who we thought are good and who produce maybe smaller schools may run bad. They may show flaws in their 3-cone, their quickness. I think this is going to be a separating factor for a lot of these guys, and we'll see where they're missing. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple guys who give us false hope as well, but I'm really excited to see what the receivers do because there's a ton of talent, man.
Yep.
There's some guys who can absolutely fly and do a little bit of everything, so I'm excited to see.
What about you, Shane? What group are you looking forward to seeing?
I think what's weird is I'm partial to the running backs, even though every dynasty team I put together is built through the wide receivers, even though the running backs had a resurgence. But anyway, for whatever reason, I think just this drills tell you more for running backs than they do for wide receivers. The 40 time is pretty much useless. I mean, if we're being honest, as an indicator of success, because at no point is someone going to be, in a sprinter stance.
Yep.
I think that's what they call it, a sprinter stance. Sure. And just flying down the field. I wish they added a few drills this year, but I wish they would add one where you have to there's a cornerback pressing you at the line, and then let me see what your separation and all that are, and your speed in a 40 at that point. But the running backs, because I like to see the jumps and the 3 cones for them, because I do want to see the agility and I want to see the burst out of them. Whereas a wide receiver, those things could be good or bad, and as long as they're not historically bad or historically great, they shouldn't move the needle all that much. They should kind of match what you already see on tape. Yeah,
I agree 100% with that. I'm looking forward to the running backs as well, and I think that you're right. I think that their drills show a little bit more about what you can expect, in the NFL. Whereas receivers, we go in, we kind of know they're fast already. And then they just show they're fast. And I think a lot of those drills don't really show exactly what we want to see. Whereas running backs last year, I'll be honest, and I say this on the show all the time, I don't watch a lot of college football. So these guys are all new to me. They come in and I'm just watching them for what they are now. So I didn't have any rooting interest. I didn't have any favorite player. So it's all new to me. So I like watching all these guys just to see who they are and kind of see how they compare to the other guys. 'Cause you see them kind of back to back to back. You can see Judy right up next to CeeDee Lamb and how they perform side by side, and who you think you like better based on some of those things. So that's kind of where I'm at with the combine.
I'm excited for the smoke drill for receivers they're adding this year, adding to the route tree, we're taking them in the red zone, where the quarterback just takes a snap, immediately throws it up to him, just see how they adjust the ball and keep in bounds.
Right.
And then, you talked about adding something. Can we please add the squat? I don't care how much they bench.
Yeah.
I mean, I see. Okay, so even if I bench a lot as a wide receiver, I guess I get the concept for it. So it means I'm strong. So I should be able to break press coverage, right? I should be able to hand fight and all that stuff, I guess. Although that's the thing. Just because I can bench press, like if I can't hand fight to get a cornerback off me, it doesn't matter if I'm strong because I'm not going to extend my arms. But the squat, yeah, you're right, dude. Like that shows how, like that's strength that translates to the field.
Yep. I like your idea too, Shane, of having the cornerback there with press man. I think even they should bring in like NFL, cornerbacks just to cover these guys, just to see, how well they actually do. Put them in more of a real life situation with like, some of the top guys that are covered, and it would be kind of awesome to see. I doubt it'll ever happen, but it would be fun to watch for sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they did add some drills this year, right? Like Jeff was saying the fade in the end zone. Like that's pretty cool. Like I don't know if that really matters, but at least I'll watch it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sure.
All right, let's do a prediction here. I'm not going to predict all the crazy other drills. We'll go with the most popular one, which probably means the least. Ryan, who do you think has the fastest 40 time this week?
I mean, it's almost too easy to say Ruggs, but my man said today he's going for that 4.22. I don't think he's going to get it, but I don't think anybody's beating him. That kid can fly.
Well, it's questionable if John Ross actually got that one too, if you remember. But man, I was going to say Ruggs, but so I was just looking around at some 40 times, and so Ruggs ran a 4.25, around a 4.25 at his junior pro day last year, which I don't know what around means. That's a pretty that's supposed to be pretty exact.
That's an Alabama stopwatch, man.
Yeah, Rager ran, I think it was a timed 4.29 during his spring practice. So I'm going to go with Rager. I think Rager's going to take that 40.
Yeah, that's what I was going with too. I was going with Rager as well. Again, like I said, I don't watch much college football. I'm just going on with some of these guys, say on the talking heads on ESPN. And I kind of like Rager. I've kind of watched a little bit of his film on YouTube, so I kind of like Rager. So I'm gonna go with Rager as well.
Now watch it be some we're not even thinking of. Because what did they invite? 57 wide receivers or something like that?
Yeah, something crazy. Yeah.
There was, I can't think of the dude who they were talking about. Tyree Cleveland's the guy to watch. I heard he's an absolute track star, and he's had trash production because he played for whatever you want to call Florida's offense. He's a guy who could surprise a lot of people too.
That was a guy that was he was really touted out of high school, and even I think his freshman year wasn't bad. It showed you just enough, but yeah, ever since then it was just terrible. Like Florida, the Florida school is just killing people. Just like Cam Akers is lucky to come out of that as a day 2 prospect still.
Ryan's a fan of Florida State.
Yeah, I love
that whole
Florida
state. They used to be great at football, and now they're horrible. I don't know what happened.
Alabama and LSU are stealing all the recruits, man, and they're not getting all those in-state guys anymore.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to do a rookie mock draft with a slight twist, so hang tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. Goingfor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, I don't know what happened there. We lost a little bit of audio, so hopefully we can get that back up. I'm having all kinds of issues over here tonight with this technical difficulties. I apologize. All right, welcome back, guys. I'm here with Ryan and Shane, and we are going to do a 16-team PPR mock draft, one quarterback. The twist is we're going to use the 2020 prospects as well as the 2019 rookies to kind of see where everybody kind of falls with some of these rookies. You have these separate classes. I'm curious to see where the 2020 class fits in with last year's class. So, Shane, you are the guest, so you get the 101. Who are you going with?
All right, and this did take some thought. But I'm just going to lean on Scott Barrett here from Pro Football Focus. And, he discussed the incoming rookie running backs last week on Pro Football Focus and actually on my show. And Jonathan Taylor is an absolute monster. The only thing that worries me is basically the lack of receiving work up until, this past year. I'm going to do this hoping against hope that wherever he lands, we'll actually use him as a 3-down back. Because based on his production in college, he's one of the top 10 best college running backs.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy.
Yeah, so he's actually Scott had a stat on there. He averaged 2,193 rushing or yards, total yards from scrimmage, 2,193 yards a year. Like, that's just ridiculous. And he, on PFF, he put out the top 10 list there, and it's all studs except for Michael James, Ron Dane. But after that, it's all guys that have been top 5 running backs, guys like Herschel Walker, although I didn't play fantasy when he played. I'm assuming he would have been a top 10 back.
Yeah.
Ricky Williams, Dalvin Cook, Ray Rice, Christian McCaffrey, another running back in this class, and Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to go with Taylor and hope that he does not get the Derrick Henry treatment in the pros, and they do use him as a receiving back, even just a little bit. Just give me 2 receptions a game.
All right. Good stuff. Ryan, let's go to you with the 102. Who do you got?
I'm kind of keeping the 2020 thing going. I'm taking DeAndre Swift. I know he doesn't have the huge production that we talked about with Taylor, but everything he shows on tape is just electric. He can break the big play. He runs good between tackles. He can still break tackles, which a lot of people kind of overlook. His vision for the cutback lanes is phenomenal. He's creative in open field. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. And yes, he has limited carries in Georgia because they're just stacked with 5-star recruits. They got Dalvin's little brother there, a couple other really good backs, which kept him fresh. And even when he was there with Chubb and Sony at the end of their careers at Georgia, he looked like he had an absolute different gear running the ball. And I trust I see with him. I think he's fantastic. You can't go wrong with either of those 2 backs in my eyes. But I think he's a little more scheme diverse. He can play anywhere and still produce, and that's one of the other things I like about him with picking over guys we know their landing spot already.
Fair. All right. I'm going to go to the receiver position here, and I'm going to take the first receiver off the board, and I'm going to actually go with this year's class as well. I'm going with Jerry Jeudy. He was my 101 overall. I've since changed that a little bit. I am going with Taylor as my 101, but for now, I think Jeudy is my pick for the receiver position, which in Dynasty I always go receiver because they last a lot longer. You can get them and have them 10, 15 years. And everything that I'm reading about Jerry Jeudy is, that he's one of the top prospects to come out in a long time. So it's pretty much foolproof, so to speak, if you listen to some of the experts. So it's Jerry Jeudy for me at the 103. Going to you, Shane, with the 104.
All right, and this is tough because I love one guy that I'm not taking here, but I'm going to go with CD Lamb. And I actually have him as right now, obviously before the draft, as the number 1 wide receiver in the class. Broke out as an 18-year-old with, sharing the field with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. And, I mean, he's excellent yards after the catch, excellent speed, excellent route running. There's just nothing not to like about him. He's got the production profile. He's going to have after all the measurements come in, he'll have the physical metrics to match. He seems like a slam dunk. And I actually do like him over Jeudy a little bit because a little bit more. I think he's a more physical receiver, and I hate using terms like "we'll fight for the ball," but
he'll fight for the ball.
Yeah, but he'll fight harder for the ball than Jeudy, I think, and I think he's more. I think they're both diverse. Both of them can play slot or outside or, X or Y, but I think Lamb is better at all 3. I think he can play anywhere on the field.
All right, good stuff. Ryan, going to you at the 105. Are you going to dip into the last year's rookies, or are you staying with this year's prospects?
I'm gonna break the chair, pop the cherry on this. I'm gonna take Miles Sanders.
Ooh.
Miles Sanders is such an exciting player. I hate how he was used in Philly, and I hate the fact that they tried to mix him up with like Boston Scott. But I understand easing your younger player into it a little bit. But God, is he good? He's so explosive. He's one of the most creative running backs I've seen in the backfield in a long time. He's ridiculous catching the ball. I can only see his role in the receiving game going up. There's nothing you can watch about Miles Sanders' game and not like. I think he's a star in the league. He's going to be a borderline top 12 back for me. And I had a hard time taking Swift over him, to be honest.
All right, good stuff. I think you may have sniped Shane. I know Shane's a big Miles Sanders guy, so I think maybe he was thinking about taking him at that last pick, and you just sniped him. So for me, I'm looking at two running backs right now. I'm looking at either Josh Jacobs or J.K. Dobbins from this year's class. I think I'm going to lean Josh Jacobs just because of what we know now. You know, he has that workhorse role in that offense in Oakland, or which will be Las Vegas, I guess, this coming up year. And we still don't know where Dobbins will end up, and you never know what he could be in. I think Jacobs is going to be that workhorse for the foreseeable future, so he's going to be my 106. 107, Shane, who you got?
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm going to be picking a guy that doesn't have a landing spot yet over a guy that does have a landing spot or is already on a team just because. No, I'm not. Screw it. A.J. Brown. No, I can't do it. It almost came out of my mouth, and I almost did it, but I'm still going to take A.J. Brown. I think, honestly, he's got top 12 upside. He's just so good, and I know a lot of his yards last year or a lot of his production was yards after the catch, which isn't very sticky. But by the same token, if you expect regression there is a reason to expect that he might see more targets.
Yep.
There's nothing to say that Mike Vrabel is going to be the coach in Tennessee for A.J. Brown's entire career, and in fact, it's more likely he'll have 2 or 3 more head coaches in that time, and it's absolutely a certainty that he'll be playing long after Derrick Henry, who might not even be back in Tennessee.
Good point.
It's easy to have, not to throw a lot when you have Derrick Henry back there.
Yep.
I don't know what happens if he's not there. And also, that the offense might evolve, and Derrick Henry is already 26, which, entering that second contract for a running back, it's a steep decline. So I'm going to go A.J. Brown with the strong hope that Mike Vrabel or Derrick Henry goes away.
All right, good. I love that pick, actually. I was going to take him with my next pick if I had a chance. And I agree. I think, you had a half a season with Mariota, or I guess not quite a half season, but a good amount of weeks with Mariota, and then he got Tannehill in there and made Tannehill look really good. So I think if he can continue that kind of pace there, I think that he can definitely be top 12. So I love that pick as well. All right, Ryan, you are up at the 108. Who you got?
I'm really happy you picked him because I was struggling between him and his former teammate, DK Metcalf. Metcalf exploded last year, and, we talked with Combine earlier. He's one of the best producers ever at that. He's a physical freak. But the thing that I love the most about DK Metcalf, other than his talent and what he has, is he's attached to Russell Wilson. And with a lot of these young receivers here, hell, almost all of them, none of them are with a quarterback as talented as him. And they just gained momentum as the year went on. You kept seeing big games for Metcalf. You saw his target volume go up and him slowly start to become that number one receiver. If he takes that spot from Lockett, which I think he has the talent to do, I think he could be huge, man. He's another guy, I think, with top 12 potential for the receiver position.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he didn't lead the NFL, he was in the top 3 or 4 of red zone targets and end zone targets last year. So I can definitely see that. He could, for a while there, he had a bunch and he hadn't caught a touchdown, and then all of a sudden he was catching them all every week, it seemed. So yeah, I love that pick as well. And like you mentioned, he's got the best quarterback situation as far as Russell Wilson being there. So I love that pick. All right, I'm gonna take the last of the big 3 from the 2020 prospects. I'm gonna take Mr. J.K. Dobbins. I think that he is the last sort of consensus sort of top 5 pick that's going to be on the board there. So I'm going to go ahead and just take him and roll with it. I would take a receiver normally at this point, but I think Dobbins is just too talented to pass on him at this point. All right, Shane, you're up at the 109.
Tell you what, man, this would be a hell of a class if it was combined.
Yeah.
And as it is, still a really strong 2 classes, especially when we didn't realize how good last year's class was.
Yep.
And this is my way of kind of stalling here. And
I respect it.
If it's a 16-team league, I think you have to go Kyler Murray right here. In real life, if I was drafting at 109, I mean, Kyler's got that upside, I think he can be better than, I can't even say that. It'll sound ridiculous. He's going to be a very good quarterback.
I know you're going to say.
Yeah, because he just came off such a charm. Like, that season was perfect for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So there, he's obviously Murray's not going to do that every year, but I think long term, year over year, Murray's going to end up being the better quarterback. Not that Lamar Jackson's going to be bad by any means, but Kyler Murray is one of the few quarterbacks that you can legitimately say will have QB1 upside, like the QB1 upside.
Yeah, I love that pick. I actually have him in my Dynasty League. I took him last year at the 203, and excited to have him on my team because I had Cam Newton, so he kind of saved my season a little bit because Cam Newton obviously didn't play much. All right, Ryan, we're going to you. What are we on? We're on the 111 right now, Ryan. Who you got?
I think I got Jalen Reagor here. Yeah, I'm going to go Reagor here. I'm really torn between him and T. Higgins. But, I mean, I knew Reagor was fast. I know he's a big-time playmaker. I thought he was skinnier than he was. The fact he came in thick in the way he can move reminds me a lot of Debo, and who I passed up here for this situation in this spot, a lot of that DJ Moore type role. I think he's that kind of player. I think he can be a team's top target, and the fact he can score anytime he touches the ball is huge. Plus, he's so versatile and does so much. I love that about his game. And the only reason I'd put him over Debo is because I have no idea what the 49ers are doing with their receiver situation, and they just hate giving people consistent fantasy value, and that's what separates him. So actually, no landing spot actually made the difference for me.
All right, well, I'm going to take that Debo Samuels. Of course, it's the homer pick because I do think that they're going to try to get him more involved, and I mentioned on a few podcasts ago that I don't think Manning Sanders is going to be back. He's a free agent. He might go somewhere else. And I think even Marquise Goodwin's going to be gone. So I think it's going to be Debo's show. And they find ways to give him the ball. They even handed the ball off a few times to him this year on reverses and such. And I think that he's going to just take that second-year leap and just be one of those players that can just plug into your lineup for the next 10 years. So it's Debo for me. All right, Shane, we're up with the 113. What you got for me?
Man, there's so many guys. They're all so good. Oh, man, this is it's hard. It's very hard. And I'm going to go with T. Higgins, even though I'm a little concerned that he's going to always be a Batman or a Robin to someone's Batman. There's been some very good Robins in the league. And I don't know if he could ever be a wide receiver 1. But I definitely think he could be a wide receiver 2, which is nothing to just, discount.
Right.
So, yeah.
He could be that 1B.
Yeah.
Kind of his old team, Mike Williams.
Yeah, and I'm just, I guess there's another player on the board that I kind of see in the same vein that had a really good rookie season, but I think a lot of it had to do with absolutely no one else being there. And that's who I was taking, but I was like, you know what? I think T. Higgins is going to be the guy, and I still have visions of him in Philadelphia, and even if he's not a legitimate wide receiver 1, I think he could be the wide receiver 1 easily for the Eagles today.
Yeah.
So I'll go with T. Higgins.
I think I could be the receiver 1 for the Eagles today right now. All right, Ryan, you were up at the 114. Who you got?
I got to take Cam Akers here. I probably should have took him in my last pick, but I believe the full skill set. I think he's a 3-down back. I think he's built to last. He's produced in terrible situations, 1,000 yards every season at Florida State. He's literally been their entire offense. Everybody knew he was getting the ball, and he still was somehow, some way able to do it. And chances are in the NFL, he's going to be in a better back. He's going to have a better offensive line and with a better team. So I think it's only up from there, and I think we're going to see what an athlete he is. And he's awesome at receiving football, which is very understated.
Good stuff. I love that pick there. So just to kind of give the listeners a little bit of what I'm looking at right now. So I'm looking at, we got Devin Singletary still on the board, Scary Terry McLaurin still on the board, Darius Slayton kind of in the mix there, Henry Ruggs from this year, Zach Moss, and Justin Jefferson. I think I'm going to go receiver here, and I'm going to go with the guy that I think Shane was talking about with his last pick, and that's Terry McLaurin. I think he was the only thing there last year. We saw his big playability. Hopefully Haskins takes that step forward. Haskins and McLaurin kind of, had that chemistry already coming out of college, and we saw it a little bit towards the end of the season. So it's going to be Scary Terry for me at the, 115. So Shane, wrap it up for us at the 116.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go ahead with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If this was a real draft, at the end of the first round, I'm taking running backs because generally these guys are, I guess, a more risky proposition, right?
Yep.
And if I have to take less risk out of risky propositions, I'm going to take a running back because the opportunity's easier for them for success generally. And I really like what I saw from him. And I'll admittedly, I didn't know who the guy was until about week 5 last year. But, everything you saw of him, he just looks like a stud. He looks like he can actually run routes and things. Like he's not just going to be a dump-off back. He's short, compact. Like I said, hopefully he doesn't, or hopefully his 40 time or his testing, he has a good combine and he doesn't tumble down the draft board. Because if he does, then I'll just disavow this pick and say that I said Justin Jefferson the whole time.
All right.
Justin Jefferson too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and we didn't even get into the two tight ends from last year, Noah Fant and T.J. Hawkinson.
Even Montgomery's still out there.
Yeah, well, he can stay out there. But that's the funny thing about these mocks is you put thought into it, but it's still very different when it's for your own team. Yep. And it's like, all right, well, I have to actually live with this. Do I really want to do this? Yep. I think I'd be happy with Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 116 in this 2019-2020 startup draft, though.
All right. Sure. Good stuff. All right. So it's time for our favorite segment of the week, and it is the Forgotten Player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Shane, give us your Forgotten Player. All right, and I bring this guy up a lot, probably more than I should. Shows my age. Fred Jackson.
Nice.
I loved Fred Jackson, man. And, I didn't look up his stats. Just I did when I got home. But on the way home, I'm like, am I thinking he's better than do I think he was better than he really was? Was he really mediocre? And I thought, maybe he was good. No, Fred Jackson was really good. He had a 6-year stretch where he was a top 24 running back every year, including 2 top 12 seasons. He was the RB4 in 2011, and he was the RB12 in 2013. And he was a guy, he had 6 straight seasons of at least 32 receptions. He never gave you, he had a bunch of years where it was just like 900 rushing yards and then 40 receptions.
Right.
And then you looked up and you're like, holy shit, this guy gave me 15 points a week.
Yep.
And he always felt like nobody wanted him. CJ Spiller was supposed to come to Buffalo and take his job, and he never did. But, he's just a guy that you drafted him probably low every year, and he just kept giving you production. So Fred Jackson, the old man,
yep,
who was actually younger than me, apparently, looking at his birthday. That's not cool.
I love that pick because I think Buffalo's kind of become, thinking about Fred Jackson, it's become kind of the place where running backs go to retire. I mean, Fred Jackson was kind of there, the older guy that they picked up, had a resurgence. Of course, Frank Gore had a little bit of resurgence in Buffalo, and even Shady McCoy leaving Philly, he was there in Buffalo for a while. It's like, kind of where you go to retire in Buffalo, I guess. But yeah, I love that pick. Fred Jackson was awesome. He was one of those guys you did get, in the later rounds. People always forgot about him. He wasn't flashy. He just came out and did his thing every week, and you ended up with a good score every week. So I love that pick for sure. All right, let's go around the room real quick and just get our Twitter handles, where we can follow you and what you're working on. Let the listeners know what you're working on, what they can look out for, and then we'll get out of here. Shane, we'll go to you first, man. Where can we see you at?
I am. Where am I? Oh, on Twitter's, I'm at Shane is the worst. It's a really mean handle, but it kind of suits me. And then, check out the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. We're out every week. I wish I could tell you it's a specific day, but it's never a specific day. It's someday between Wednesday and Friday it'll drop.
Nice.
And then, writing right now, I'm just contributing to Fantasy Pros. I got an article due to them this week, so I better finish that. And then actually on our Patreon page for the Dynasty Trades HQ, I'm working on a running back study. I went back 8 years just looking at the age of running backs when they produced their top 24 seasons. And then that wasn't enough, so I decided to add some more data to it, and I added career touches, career reception, or average receptions per season, and then just some more data points. That's kind of fun.
Nice.
Just digging into the running backs, because I like looking at the history of things and just seeing if what people say is true, basically. Like, running backs after 25, they're dead. Well, that might be true, but it might be something else there. So that's where you find me. Just check out the podcast, and we'll tout everything else that I want you to come buy from me.
Good stuff. Before I let you get out of here, Shane, I did get a one last minute question over here on Periscope from Eric. I'm gonna ask you because you're the Miles Sanders guy. Would you trade the 104 for this year for Miles Sanders?
Yes. Single quarterback or
he didn't say. I'm gonna assume single quarterback
because that is technically the standard right now. So let me do this math in my head. We're talking about Taylor. Probably. I mean, you could sell it to me pretty easy. You might have to throw in something a little extra just to make me feel better, like a third. But that's just for my pride. So I'd probably do that. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. All right, Ryan, give us your Twitter handle and what you're working on right now.
Ryan Surfox, Fantasy FB Connect, the Dynasty Draft Room Rookie Guide. I got the right information, so I had everything up in front of me. We have 91 prospects. We have them graded on 10 traits with notes on all traits. We have rankings, projections, all their college production, all their combine information. All that's going to be in one place. And then you can find me at Dynasty War Room, and you can find me here and check out my mock draft.
All right, good stuff. And with that draft guide too, if they use my promo code GF2, they can save on that. I think it ends up being less than $10 if you use my promo code. So definitely check that out, guys. It's an awesome tool. I've seen some snippets from it, some pictures of the screenshots of it. It looks amazing. They've done a great job on that. So for sure, definitely check that out.
And please let me know let me know how you guys hate your picks in my mock draft for your team. I would love to hear that. I only want negative talk.
Just negative talk. And Shane, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, go buy a draft guide. I did one of those last year, and I'll never do that again in my life because it was the most all-consuming, time-consuming thing that I was just like, I never want to do this again. So go buy that draft guide, man. I just know from past experience how much work goes into that. So if that thing's under $10, trust me, that the man hours put into it well exceeds that. You're getting your money's worth.
100%
it looks
agree.
really, really good.
It does. They did a really good job.
And I'm not just saying that because I helped make it. It looked really good.
Yep.
I feel bad they had to deal with me on it.
All right, guys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, I'm here every Tuesday and Friday. Friday is our DFS podcast. We're actually doing DFS XFL. If you haven't checked that out this Friday, me and Tim will do that for you. We've been really good, actually, up until this past week. I was the number one touted expert as far as accuracy, but I think week 3 kind of killed me a little bit, so we'll see how things shake out. But that's it, guys. That's a wrap.